Actually, I've never read any of Adamski's. What's his first name again?
George.
George Adamski. But now that you've mentioned it, I think I might go and have a look.
Well, the books have been reprinted. Inside the Spaceships is the middle book. He tells you how he went for rides on the ships and the people there. And the last one is Flying Saucer Farewell, where he talks about his world tour.
Right. Do you know the name of the first one? What was the name of the first book?
Flying Saucers Have Landed.
Right. So they...
By George Adamski and Desmond Leslie.
There are 3 main books, are they?
There are 3 books.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
They have reprinted Flying Saucers Have Landed. Whether they've reprinted the other ones, I don't know.
Yeah.
The photograph on the front of the second book of a carrier ship was taken by the telescopes at Palomar. And Adamski says, that's not my photograph. He says, that's a big telescope at Palomar. He says, that's a government photograph. He wouldn't claim that one, although he claims a lot of others in the book.
Right. Do you have like a theory?
How do you mean?
Do you have any theory of your own why the UFOs would come to the Earth?
Well, I think the simple reason is that they first came on the scene. Of course, they've been about for thousands of years. They first came on the scene when we dropped the atom bomb in Hiroshima. They wanted to see what we're going on, what we're up to.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
If I found out that you were playing with atomic weapons or something and
yes,
likely to blow things up, I'd be hovering around to find out what you're up to too.
That's right.
That's why I think they're doing it, and they've been watching us ever since.
So, mainly from 45 onwards, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, mainly of later years, anyhow. You can go back to the Indian writings of the Mahabharata, and the Sanskrit, the Vedas, Samarangana, Satrahara. They talk of Vimanas and Vyumas. They're circular ships. They carrier ships. They're back thousands of years ago.
They write about UFOs, do they?
Yeah, of course. It's been translated from the Sanskrit, Indian writings.
Okay.
UFO's only a modern title they've been given. Or flying saucers. Kenneth Arnold started the flying saucers, or the newspapers did after he landed, and reported the 9 objects he saw in the Cascade Mountains.
Sure, you don't want me to get you a glass of water or anything, Stan?
No,
You'll be right?
Right.
Okay.
So they've been watching us ever since. Go to your Bible, it'll tell you a bit about it.
Which section would you reckon?
What did Elijah see? Elijah went away in a fiery chariot.
That's right, yeah.
What sort of a chariot? You wouldn't have a chariot pulled with horses. It's a fiery chariot.
So it had like fire coming out the back, a bit like a spaceship or a rocket or something?
Yeah, a rocket of some sort.
Yeah.
Anyway, how did they make the pyramids?
I don't know. Can you tell me what your theory
Why
is?
what reason did they make them?
I don't know. Do you have a theory on that?
No, damned if I know. They must have handled those rocks a lot easier than we could today.
Well, I was reading somewhere that the aliens could have special machines which can neutralize gravity, and the rocks were levitated. This is where I was reading in a book somewhere.
Well, they'd have to be.
It's a pretty heavy damn things to move.
Dempsey's book, Desmond Leslie talks about that theory there. He reckoned that they lifted them by sound, broke gravity by sound, because sound's a frequency.
That's right, that's where I was reading somewhere, yeah. And it created, it neutralised the gravity and the rocks
But
were
then why do it? Why go to so much trouble making great pyramids of rocks?
Well, weren't they like, so they can be seen from outer space or something? Do you think, or what would you have a theory on, do you have a theory about the pyramids? Why they were built? I think that's so they could be seen from outer space.
They might be able to be seen from outer space too. Same with these crop circles in England.
But what do you think about the crop circles?
Well, I think some are fakes, but I think some are not.
Yeah. Yeah, because you always get people that copycat stuff. They see stuff on the TV, and then they'll
make a few bob out of it if they can.
Yeah, that's right. So you don't have a theory about the pyramids at all? Why they were built?
Can't see why. But there's not only the pyramids of Gaza, there's about 200 odd pyramids up along that Nile.
I didn't know that.
Oh, the smaller ones, of course.
Yeah.
They've got those pyramids in South America too. Yucatan.
I thought there was some in South America.
You got those temples at Angkor Wat in Cambodia. They got the Black Pagoda in India, 225 feet high, building on silo type shape building, rock on top of it 25 feet thick. I reckon it weighs at least 2,000 tons.
Wow.
Let alone make the thing. How would you get it up there?
Wow. What's it? How high up is it? What's it on?
Black Pagoda of India.
What's it on?
It's a temple.
Right, and it's right up the top, is it?
It's right on the top of the silo. It's a silo-shaped building. It's got a lot of carvings and things around it. I got a picture of the town.
Right. What about the crop circles? Do you have a theory about those? Why they're made?
I think they're made to indicate things from space. Indicate.
Okay.
Make sure.
Hi, you back?
Still shopping.
Are you? Okay. No worries. I've been asking Stan if he wanted a glass of water or anything because it's very hot. He doesn't want anything.
Oh, righto. Burness is in town too.
Is there?
Burness is in town today too.
Oh, again, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, because I had a chat to her yesterday.
Where's
I
Burness?
haven't seen her. I've seen her husband.
All right.
Her husband said he had to wait 2 hours for her yesterday. He's not going to let her go near you again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you've got some water here. You sure you don't want any of this?
It's right. Don't worry about the water.
Okay.
In Lebanon, they don't know who made it. I got photographs of the rocks there. It's a temple building and two rocks and the veranda of it. There's one in the quarry cut, ready to come up to the veranda section. One's up in the veranda section now, uphill from the quarry. The rocks are 70 feet long, 25 feet thick by 30 foot wide, made out of solid granite. One's in position on the veranda section of it, the other one's down at the quarry ready to come up a quarter of a mile away, I think. Now you can get all the slaves and ropes and things in the world if you like, you'd never get shipped a rock that size.
What do you mean you couldn't move it?
No. I reckon it weighs at least 1,500 tons.
Wow.
Now you're going to get ropes around it anyhow.
Pretty
Couldn't do it.
Even with modern cranes and everything,
No, of
it would
course
be
couldn't do
difficult.
it.
And in those days, they didn't have all the modern cranes and what we got now, you know.
I think the space fellas came down here to teach us how to live and live the right way. We got disagreeable with them. We were going to do things our way, sort of thing. They'd say, right, so they gathered up their tools and flew off and left us to it. Look at the mess we've made of it so far.
Yeah. Well, and it's about to become a much bigger mess. If a war starts in Iraq.
The days will be shortened and no flesh will be spared. There'll be an intervention of something. And the intervention, the only way I can see it, will be spaceships.
Yeah, to save people from, I guess,
People.
from the earth.
Two people working in a field. One shall be taken, one shall be left.
Really?
They'll come and pick the ones up they want. It's in the Bible too. Two people sleeping in a bed, one shall be taken, one shall be left. I think they've been doing a lot of survey work for the last 50 odd years, 60 years. Spaceships lying about. Of course, the little discs, about 3 feet in diameter, hover over a person's house in the night. Nobody knows anything about it. Taking a survey of the people inside the house. Take tapes or something and take it back to the carrier ship to get records of different people.
And that could be like an unmanned ship, couldn't it?
Yeah, it's not manned.
Because they're only small, those ones.
Yeah, one crash landed down near Bendemeer, this side, the other up from Tamworth. Some years ago, a fella found it when he was riding about with a horse. It just turned into a jelly and it sublimed into the ground within minutes. Something went wrong with it, I suppose. It disintegrated.
Mm.
Well, they've got the upper hand if they want to.
Yeah. I'd say they have. And I think, like you said, when it comes to the crunch, they might have to intervene at some point. Because mankind seems to be on a path.
I don't think they care what happens to us.
No.
As long as we don't blow things up here and make everything radioactive and make the particles fall on their planet.
Mm. True, because with radiation, it can go out into space. It spreads out in every direction.
Of course it can.
Mm. Mm.
What about Ezekiel with his wheels within wheels?
Oh yeah.
The River Chiba. He had a connection with space sheep people too, I suppose.
That's in the Bible, isn't it?
It's in the Bible.
Ezekiel, yeah.
Book of Ezekiel.
Right.
Because I don't know whether the Bible is teaching us the full truth either. There's so many different translations. My knowledge, there are 44 different translations in the world today.
Yeah.
Which one's right?
That's right. Exactly. And then I went overseas, and I went to India, and I studied like the Eastern religions as well.
Yeah.
And they're a little bit different from the Christian religion, you know.
Yeah. Well, what's your concept of God?
To me, my concept of God is that God is the whole universe, everything included into one, right? The whole universe, the whole energy of it, to me, that's what God is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But it has to be a force. It can't be a he, like it's mentioned of in the Bible.
exactly right. It has to
It's
be.
impossible to be he, because
Just-
you'd have to have a she.
That's right.
You can't, he sounds like an old gentleman sitting on a cloud waving a wand and controlling the universe. That's impossible.
That's right. Exactly right. To me, the universe is just an energy or a force, like you said, right? Without a gender, without a colour, without any form, really. It's a formless energy.
It's an invisible oscillating isotropic force, manifest on itself, transmitting energy and ultimately matter. That's my interpretation of it.
It's a very good interpretation.
Because man can create things too. Can create forces. He knows how to handle them. You ever seen the Indian rope trick done?
No, I haven't. Do you know how that
I
works?
saw it done once.
Can you tell me how that works?
Mass hypnotism. Well, I put it down too.
Right.
I saw it at the Dammoth show one year, years ago. A tent with an old Indian sitting cross-legged on the ground. There were about 100 odd people there watching. I was in the front row. The old Indian got up off the ground, walked across to the audience. Yeah, the girl, she got on a couch. She was about as far as I was about a metre away from her. She dragged this rope across the ground in the tent, and it turned into a shiny looking rope. He put the rope under the girl's back, lifted the girl up off the couch. The rope fell down, the girl was in mid-air. I think if I remember rightly, he passed hoops over the girl now to prove that she was in mid-air. I put it down as mass hypnotism. Of course, then she subsided down onto the couch again and got up and walked off, and so did he. I don't know whether he could have done it by levitation or not. Levitation's a bit harder to do. I think mass hypnotism's easier.
Is it?
Like Christ walking on the water. Well, I think Christ went away to study in India, because we got a blank spot in the Bible. You only know of him when he was a child, and then when he came back to the crucifixion.
That's right. So from the ages of 12 to 30, that
Yeah,
whole part of his life's missing.
Yeah. Now where was he? He went to somewhere to study.
Yeah.
I had a book once, The Unknown Life of Christ.
Right.
Forgotten who it was by now. It told her where he went and he preached in the streets of Lahore and Madras in India. Well, there's nothing to stop him going to India to study.
That's right.
Then he went away in a cloud. What was the cloud he went in? After the crucifixion. But if there was a crucifixion, I'm doubtful if he'd be silly enough to get caught up in that. I'm doubtful if he was crucified myself. I think there was a crucifixion, but it might have been somebody else, not him. If he had those powers, he'd be like Apollonius, the Greek master, in 100 AD, before the Roman court. The Romans supposed to have laid charges against him, and The magistrate there unrolled a scroll of all the charges when he unrolled it was a blank sheet of paper. As Apollonius projected that he wouldn't see anything. He said, "You'll no more have my life. You'll have my body and then you'll have my spirit." And he disappeared in a flash of light.
Drink water?
Thank you.
That'd be great.
I've been asking Stan, he just doesn't want anything.
You want a drink, Stan?
No, I'm right, thanks, Terry.
Thank you. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. Yeah, so is there anything else you want to tell me, Stan, or?
Oh, I could think of hundreds of things.
Yeah, okay. Well, we're still filming if you want to keep going. You tell me something else if you want.
Apollonius was a Greek master. He materialised at the foot of Mount Vesuvius later. According to what you read, of course, doesn't say it's true. You just put it on the shelf. Christ's supposed to come back with 10,000 angels, from what I've read. Well, why wouldn't they be spaceships? Pick up the one he wants and the one they don't want. Leave them here.
The shiny silver.
I'd leave it to you, but you weren't yours.
Melbourne Cup, the shiny silver one.
No, he didn't tell me that, no.
Oh, well, we'd better mention that one.
Yeah? Did you want to talk here, or did you want to...
Well, this is all right,
Yep, sure.
isn't it?
Go for it.
Is it all right for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the camera?
Absolutely, the camera's working fine.
Oh, it's working fine.
Yeah.
All right, well, you haven't told him Melbourne Cup Day.
No, he didn't. He left some for you to tell as well.
Oh, I see. All right.
That was nice of him.
Melbourne Cup Day.
Yeah.
We were going up the... we were just about to go up a hill out in the paddock.
Well, that's hang on a sec.
This rain gets you down after a while, I can tell you.
Yeah, okay. Well, if you want to just tell me about that one.
Melbourne Cup Day.
Yeah, we started about, yeah?
Yep. Well, it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We were just going up to help feed cattle.
Yep.
At Stan's sister's place, you see, and we were down along the creek, and we just crossed this last creek crossing and looked up this hill where the road goes, and here was this big shining thing that looked as though it had to be almost on the road halfway up the hill. Circular, and it was so shiny, it was just brilliant. It was like a hubcap, the hubcap shine of a car, that shininess. And the sun shining on it, of course, made it look brighter still.
Yep.
So I had to open 2 gates down at the bottom of the hill, and I watched it while I opened one, and it was just there. When I got to the 2nd gate, I couldn't see it. I don't know whether the hill blocked me a bit or whether a tree, there was a big tree there, might have blocked me from seeing it if it had still been there. So we kept going, and we thought, if only we can get up the hill towards it. We had to get up to another gate halfway up the hill. If only we can get there, we'd have seen it properly. And there wasn't a thing in sight. So we missed it. It couldn't have gone straight up. We would have seen it. We would have seen it. So it must have stayed low, and it must have gone off round the hill, I reckon.
Oh, okay.
But thinking of the size of it, and thinking of where it was, I reckon it would have had to quite big enough to carry passengers. It would have been about the size of like a circular car, like the like all these circular ones that do carry the passengers.
Right.
It had to be. And at that time of the day, and there's no other explanation, you could not see, it was so brilliant that you couldn't see any type of windows or anything like that in it. And,
Okay.
so that was about it for Melbourne Cup Day, but then, a few days after that, I had local radio going
Right.
from Tamworth, 2NU Tamworth,
Yep.
and a truckie fella, rang up the program, and he said about a week ago, he said I was going up the Newell Highway near Gurley, or between Gurley and Ballatta, that's across from us, and he said at 8 o'clock at night, and he said a green and red object about the height of a telegraph pole just went zip across the road.
Wow.
And he said it really rattled me. He said I'd heard of things, unidentified things, but he said I was rattled, and he said I checked then the next day. He said I checked with the Air Force. He said they couldn't help me, so he said I checked with the Sydney UFO group. See, I don't know which group, and no, it must have been the group that came up here, I think.
Yeah, they're based in Sydney.
Yeah, they're based, yeah.
There's another one based in Campbelltown, and then
Yeah,
there's another
two
one
or
up
three of
up in Katoomba in the
That's
mountains.
right.
And there's also another one in Western Sydney, up I think towards Penrith.
I think so. Well,
There's
the lot
about
that
4 of
came up
them.
here were the ones because, oh dear, I've forgotten the name of the fella. It wasn't Brian Dixon, but anyway, so 2NU had organised for the Sydney investigator to be on the line. So then after the truckie was talking, they put this Sydney fella came on, and he mentioned Barraba, and he said, we've been to Barraba a couple of times. He said, no, there's been UFOs about Barraba. And so the girl running the program from Tamworth said, is there anyone around Barraba who'd like to phone in about seeing a red and green object at night? So, of course, I was waiting. I was wondering if Bernice was listening or if she might phone in. She didn't, and a Margaret from Barraba phoned in. Bernice said, I know who that is. She lives out towards Capitan, Margaret Harris. She said, that's who that was. And she had seen a red and green object at night, the way he described it. And then another Anne from Barraba phoned in, and I was talking to Bernice later. I said, who's Anne from Barraba? Oh, well, she said, she's the butcher's wife. And she said that this had happened about 20-odd years ago between Barraba and Manila one night when they were driving along the road.
Right.
The red and green light object, you see, flew across.
Yep.
So, so that was that episode. I thought it was interesting that it happened about the same time as we saw this silver object in the daytime, that this happened. And then also the same time, we got up to Stan's sister's place and telling her about this, you see, just on the hill below the old sawmill and so on. Oh, she said, that's a funny thing, she said, because this morning, she said, I saw a road, but she said it was only small. Wasn't a big looking craft. She said, I thought I'd have a look at that when I went up there about half an hour later, and there was nothing there. But talking about it, she thought it might have been one of those weather balloons that come down. But that happened to be the same, about the same time, whatever. Then we got to her place this morning. We got to her place a while ago, and Terry said, Rita's seen something else. She's seen another UFO. I said to her, oh, well, what this time? And she said, oh, well, she said it was just round and silver, just going along about the height of the plane, of a passenger plane, and no sound. And she said, not fast. She said it was taking its time. And that was only yesterday morning, I think.
Was that yesterday morning?
I think she said yesterday morning.
You're kidding.
She didn't say what time. But I mean, you can tell a passenger plane goes over most of those planes. They go pretty high, but they're just different somehow, and they do make a little bit of a sound, you know, like with the jets, engines in them.
Yeah.
This thing went across perfectly silently. It was probably one.
Oh, what, sorry?
It was probably one, I reckon.
Yeah, well, if it was not making no sound, it makes you wonder, well, see, we don't have any kind of technology that can fly without any sound.
No.
Unless you got something like a hot air balloon, but then...
Sometimes they reckon they make a humming
But
sound.
still
these
they've got that...
UFOs.
Oh, really?
You heard that?
Someone else mentioned that, yeah.
I've heard that, but I've never heard a humming sound.
Yeah.
Those ones we saw back in '62, that was the first thing, actually, the first thing I would say that I'd seen back in '62.
Yeah.
And they were the silver discs.
Right.
And I don't know, Stan might have told you about those.
You did tell me something about... But I want you to tell me as well.
Well, about midday,
Yeah.
round about then, and we had a visitor with us, and she said, quick, come out and see what I can see. And I was teaching our daughter Julie. We were doing correspondence lessons at the kitchen table. We dropped everything and went out and looked up, sort of, you can shelter your eyes with the overlapping veranda and the gutter spout and look up above it. And so the sun didn't stop you looking. And here were these silver discs, very high up, and they were just coming into view. And then you look at them, they seemed to get higher, so you couldn't see them.
Yep.
And there was all, the sky was a tangle of all this silvery sort of substance, which, looking at them hard, seemed to come from them, like an exhaust from them.
Yeah, if you can just excuse me, Jean, this tape's just
Running out.
died. Yeah, go for it.
Righto, well, as we watched these for a while, they were coming and going, and the silvery sort of thing from them started coming down, and it kept breaking as it came, and it never reached the ground. It sort of disintegrated and broke up before it reached the ground. So we were watching that, and then one of them came low as a passenger plane. It was still a silver disc.
Right.
Couldn't detect, because we were looking at it from underneath.
Right.
Couldn't detect anything except it being shiny and silver and circular. But it
Was it like sort of shiny, blinding, or...?
Well, I'll still say like a shiny hubcap of a car.
Which is,
like
yeah.
a solid hubcap, that
Right.
sort of a shine.
Yes, it's not overly blinding, but
Very shiny.
enough sun on it.
The sun, of course, made it shiny.
That's right, yeah.
So it came low, reasonably low, and stayed right over us, perfectly still. So we decided to count, and we counted slowly to 10 before it moved off, slowly in an easterly direction. Watched it till it just went out of sight, but all the rest of them seemed to go up high and get out of sight. I wouldn't be surprised if they had one of those big motherships was up there out of sight that these little discs get into.
Yeah.
So, of course, that was after having read George Adamski's books, after having gone to Sydney and met him and heard his lectures, and we were just completely convinced after that, because these, he had the silver disc. I suppose Stan told you all about him.
Yeah, he was telling me you've got a few of his videos and books and stuff at home.
And stuff we have.
Yeah. Yeah, and he told me that you actually went and met him, and
we did. Oh, wonderful experience.
yeah,
Absolutely
he's
wonderful.
actually Stan said that he's actually passed away now.
Oh, he has.
Back in
He has.
65 or whatever. Yeah.
Stan tell you about that UFO thing we went to in Brisbane a few years ago?
Oh.
MUFON.
I can't remember
UFO
that one.
conference.
No, you can tell me about that one if you like.
Anyway, MUFON were organising it, I think, up there.
Right.
So we thought about this. We thought, we'll go. It was a whole weekend conference thing. You had to pay quite a lot. And they had guest speakers from USA and England and Mexico and Australia. Bill Chalker was speaking at it.
Right.
And what's his name, Summers, David Summers was a speaker at it, and for Australia. Anyway, that was the most terrible cover-up you could ever imagine. And the first day, they had these American speakers talking about hypnotism and, oh, they were just...
Yeah, a lot of
nothing.
hogwash.
Yes. And they'd come all the way from America to talk like that.
Yeah.
And they'd either put you to sleep, or I burst out laughing a few times at them. It was just ridiculous, the way they went on. And there was a university fella from England sitting next to me the first day. And he said, I thought I'd just come along for one day just to see what it was like. He said, now I know, he said, complete cover-up. He said, I won't come tomorrow, because we'd booked in for the whole weekend.
Yeah. Did you end up going back the next day?
Oh, yes, because we'd paid for it too.
And you'd come all the way from Barraba to Sydney, so
We had.
you
We'd
think...
gone up to, we stayed with, actually, we had friends in Brisbane. We stayed
Oh,
there
sorry,
for
Brisbane,
the weekend.
yeah.
It was Brisbane, this, yeah.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, but then you'd have lunch hour and morning tea breaks and things, and you could talk to these speakers. And you'd mention George Adamski, and they'd all pretend they'd never heard of him, or they'd go all sort of vague, you know, and they weren't allowed to talk about him, because if they'd been investigators, I mean, he's just the main UFO contact person for America.
Yeah.
He's been in the craft, he's met the people, and they are people, they're not creatures with great big eyes and no mouths and all that rot.
So they actually look like us, more or less.
Absolutely.
I thought they would, yeah.
Absolutely, and well, I mean, more intelligent than
we are, probably.
we are.
Yeah.
How he had a sketch in his book of this fellow, this chapper. Didn't want him to take a photograph of him. And he had a sketch in his book of that, but he had photographs of these UFOs, terrific photographs, and he had movies of them. We didn't even see the movies because he wasn't allowed to show them. He showed them the first night and they wouldn't let him show them. But they were I believe they were terribly convincing, and we missed them. And he was furious because they wouldn't let him show them.
Yeah.
They tried to make some excuse or something about customs or something.
Yeah.
But, oh no, I don't know. What do you think about this cover-up stuff?
Well, I think that all the governments of the world are covering up. I think that they might be a bit scared that the truth got out too. It might cause a panic with some people. You know, I don't know if some people are ready to hear it. You know?
But this was way back in 1952.
Yeah, well, I think back then, I don't know if many
It
people...
didn't start on cover-up then, see? And there were...
Oh, it wasn't covered up back then?
No, it wasn't covered up then.
Really?
And it was in all the papers. I mean, we got an awful lot of paper cuttings from way back then. You've got a whole scrapbook of big paper cuttings, and they won't put it in papers now.
So when do you reckon they started covering up? Maybe...
I tell you when. That Betty and Barney
When was that?
rubbish started. That would have been about in the 60s, I think.
What was? Can you tell me about them?
Stan didn't tell you about them?
He mentioned it, but then he went off the subject onto something else. So.
Well, Betty and Barney were two characters over in the US, you see. I can't tell you what state, but the Sun Herald had a great big write-up, and they wanted everyone to read this, how they had to be hypnotised to remember what happened to them in this spacecraft, and how they were more or less abducted into the spacecraft and had needles stabbed in them and all this sort of stuff. And it was all out in the papers. They wanted everyone to see it. Great big double page in the Sun Herald.
So obviously that story was
seemed
totally...
to be the beginning.
Totally fabricated, wasn't it?
Rubbish.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't fabricated. Really, I think it might have happened, but they didn't have... they didn't have creatures with 3 fingers. They hadn't got to that stage.
Right.
But they were a bit wrong. They didn't look quite like us. But they had to be hypnotised to remember what happened to them.
Right.
None of the earlier stories, none of them had to be hypnotised to know what happened.
So, yeah, so, okay.
And the nonsense seemed to start back then, I think.
Yeah.
Then it carried on.
Right. That's what Stan was saying. Yeah. Betty and what was it?
Betty and Barney.
That's right. Yeah. He said that too. That in the early days, people didn't need to be hypnotised; they just remember stuff.
Yeah. Well, then that other wonderful fella who's talking now, Robert Dean.
Right.
Have you met him or heard him?
I've heard about him. I've heard about him. Yeah.
Well, we got a tape of his that the Sydney group gave us, and we have a copy of it, one of his tapes. And he was in the Vietnam War for America.
Okay.
And he's onto the UFO business now, but he was so disgusted with his own country. And he said in this tape about Buzz Aldrin, the famous astronaut fellow.
That's right, I know him. Was he the second man on the moon, or third, or something?
Like that.
Second or
he went
third?
Up in one of those.
After Neil Armstrong or something, something like that. I remember. Yeah.
And Buzz Aldrin was so excited when he got back because he was so excited to tell about the UFOs he'd seen at the moon or on the trip or something, and they grabbed him and they shut him up and more or less imprisoned him for about 12 weeks.
Wow.
And they wouldn't let him say anything, and he was so excited to talk about it. And they went and they practically ruined this man, shut him up, and Robert Dean was just so upset talking about what they'd done to this famous fella Buzz Aldrin, just because he wanted to say that he'd seen UFOs.
Yeah.
And he wasn't allowed to say anything.
Yeah.
Apparently all their astronauts are not allowed to say anything about them.
Yeah.
And I think Robert Dean must be he'd be a great fellow to meet. And he said in this Vietnam business where America shouldn't have been anyway. And he said some of the Americans were left back there, and I've forgotten what happened now, and they were abandoned. And he was just so upset he could hardly speak about it. They didn't care. They didn't care what happened to them. Didn't care if they were killed or what happened to them. I sort of wonder what he's thinking about this Bush now and Iraq.
Yeah, well, I think we are going to have some kind of war. I mean, I don't know how big.
But why does Bush, why does he...
Well, I think
he's just so determined. There are going to be hundreds of lives lost, and all this shooting and killing. Thousands.
I'd say thousands.
And the Australians that have gone over there, Howard just sort of having to play along with Bush. And, oh my goodness,
a lot of people are upset about it, Howard.
It's terrible. I think so.
Yeah, it is terrible. I mean, he's really taken, like, Bush's side like 100%. And
Absolutely.
I think
Tony Blair's worse, I think.
Yeah, well, the three of them are all in
this
together, and well, this is the problem where you have
the United
one
Nations,
person.
Though they want to overrule.
That's right. This is the problem where you have one person in charge of a whole country. I think it's a problem, like a president or a prime minister.
They shouldn't
because
have
they
that
can make
power.
a decision. Exactly, it's too much power for one person.
They shouldn't.
They can make a decision, and then no one else can stop them doing it.
It's terrible.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they're in charge. While they're in that seat. So.
Terrible.
Yeah, I think it's a bit wrong.
They passed a vote of no confidence in Howard yesterday.
Oh, really?
In